So when he comes up, he says, verse 4, and he said to them, so Jesus tells the man, you come to me. And he says to them, that is the Pharisees, he asks them a question. Is it lawful on the Sabbath to do good or to do harm, to save life or to kill? But they were silent. Think about that for a second. They're so wrapped up in what they either want to be true or what they believe to be true, or probably a mixture of both, because we're crazy, that he asked them a really simple question. What do you think God wants to do on the Sabbath? Do you think it would be better to destroy a life, or do you think it would be better to give life? And they're so engrossed in their lie, they're so engrossed and invested in their own personal desires, whether it be the money. We know from Pilate makes the commentary that Jesus was handed over to be crucified because they were jealous. They were jealous of his power. They were jealous of the adoration of the people. They were jealous of who he was. So, which is interesting, because if they were jealous, that means that they understood he had power. It means that they understood that he had authority. It means he understood that people were being healed. And they're sitting in the room, right? And this is not the first healing. They're sitting in the very room, but they've bought their own lie to such a point that they're like, we just need to kill this guy. And when he asks them, is it okay to do good on the Sabbath, they won't even answer him. And the thing is, when we're not honest with ourselves and others, this is where we go. And I'm not saying that we go there in the beginning out of rebellion like we're a bunch of obstinate children, although we can be that way. But what I'm saying is we go to this place where we believe our own press. We believe our own lie. We want something so bad. And even when other people are trying to help us with truth, we're just like, no. You don't understand. You've never been where I am. You've never been a victim. And by the way, I've been a victim. Am I minimizing victimization? I am not. I'm just saying that we don't have to stay in a place of victimization. And a lot of times we believe our own lie and the societal lie that it's good to be victimized, that it's good to stay in that it's good to operate from a position, mentally from a position of victimization, that that's who you are, that is your identity. And then when we that identity, for example, is one of many, when we go down that road and we begin to believe those things, that when somebody comes along and interrupts that idea, we reject them. We go, no, you're crazy. You don't know. But the lie comes just like we were talking about earlier, any lie that we speak, it comes from a place typically, it could just be that you want to troll people, but typically any lie that you speak is because you're trying to protect something. Just like the Pharisees. They're trying to protect their power, their wealth, their authority, the awe-inspire of their fancy garments with the bells and the pomegranates hanging off the bottom. They're trying to protect that. And that the protection of trying to protect who they are rather than who God would want them to be or want to do in their life drives them to a place of complete and utter rejection of Jesus and anything that Jesus can offer them. It's a pretty wild thing. And so when you see this man, he's doing the opposite of that. This man comes forward, and so he sees him, and then it says that he's angry, that Jesus becomes angry. And I think that it's interesting, and I want to point something out here. Because it says in verse 5, and he looked around at them with anger, grieved at their hardness of heart, and he said to the man, stretch out your hand. So it specifically does not say that he was angry with them, although I think that's part of it. But he had anger and he had grief. And here's what I point out. One of the things when that helps me to not be a proud jerk, especially when I'm relating with other people, I always try to, the worst person I know is probably me, but the second worst person I might come in contact with, right? You meet someone and they've done whatever they've done. I always try to remember that person was 4 years old once. I always try to remember that. Because you remember when you were 4? Like, what were you doing? Saving the world with G.I. Joe, right? Nursing somebody back to health, running around, playing tag, laughing, hoping for some Kool-Aid, right? Eating cheese and apples, maybe. That's what we were all doing when we were 4, right? For the most part. Obviously, you can have certain people that are born with different psychological issues and so forth, but we're talking generally speaking here. That's what we were doing. We were just trying to enjoy life. And a lot of times, the things that happened to us in those times, they molded us in part into who we are. Didn't they? We're not giving people excuses. Don't worry, I'm not going to a place where hey, it's all cool because your parents just wrecked you. We're not saying that. What we are saying is that these Pharisees, they were 4 years old once. And they were running around in their little togas or whatever they were wearing, and they were doing what 4-year-old, playing in the mud probably, going to Hebrew school. That's what they did. Probably smacked each other with sticks and, they just were 4 years old, right? That's what they did. They grew into this. So they made decisions that cost them dearly, and they made decisions that hardened their hearts, and they made decisions, but other people helped them to that place. And it's important to remember that every single person has a story. It's things that have gone on in their lives. Bad choices that they've made and bad choices that people around them made. And it's helped them become what they were.